So we're looking at supporting partners overcall. So specifically we're looking at our partners just made some kind of overcall over their opening bid and the various different ways you can respond to this overcall. Now the thing that's unusual about responding to an overcall is that your partner isn't promising a good hand necessarily, they're just promising a good suit. So it's quite different to responding to an opening bid because your partner's promising a better than average hand when they open. When they overcall, it's often more disruptive than it is meant to be constructive. So responding to an overcall is an entirely different thing. Now, there are essentially four things you can do. You can either support your partner directly, i.e. bid their suit, you can bid the opponent's suit, you can bid your own suit, or you can bid no trumps. They're your four options. I suppose pass is your fifth option. But if you're going to bid, you either support them directly, bid the opponent's suit as some kind of strong thing, which I'll talk about in a minute, bid your own suit if you want to, or bid no trumps. They're your only real options. Now, just before we get into that, looking at what our partner promises for an overcall, this is obviously an important thing. You need to know what they've got to know how to respond. So, I appreciate you know this, but it's worth recapping. What does East have to bid one spade over one heart as an overcall? What's their points and cards?
6 plus points.
6 plus points.
5 cards. 6 points.
And five
cards in the suit.
5 plus spades.
5 spades.
Any spades?
With 2 honours.
With a good suit. So good quality. I probably shouldn't have written spades because that means you'll think, you know what I mean, 5 of the suit ended. I try to be vague with the term good quality is on purpose vague because you could argue, well, what's good quality? Surely that's subjective. Just a suit that you think you'd be happy if your partner led it. Queen, Jack, 10, King, Jack, Ace, Queen. Something where you think your partner, you know, you've got some goodies in it. You don't want to be overcalling on 5 to the 10 and 5 to the Jack, really. Because your partner is likely to lead them and it won't go well if you end up defending. So, given that partner is only promising 6 points at the one level, how many points would they be promising, therefore, if they bid 2 clubs rather than 1 spade?
10.
10 plus points rather than 6 plus, just because you need more points to be bidding at the 2 level. You'll notice these are the same amount of points that you need to respond at the 1 level and respond at the 2 level. So it all ties in. You won't get many shortcuts in bridge like that, so there's a shortcut. But this is also the same. Obviously in this instance you'd have 5 plus clubs of good quality rather than 5 plus spades. Okay? Not promising as much, they're not giving as much information. I've got this suit and I've got a few points. That's about all they're saying. Okay? So when they make an overcall, be aware that they don't necessarily have a good hand. They just have a good suit. That's what they're suggesting. Now, assuming that we know all that, which we should, when our partner makes an overcall, as I say, you have 4 options. So I'll go through them in the most likely thing you are going to do, and then get down to the least frequent, what comes up. So, annoyingly, it's most frequent that you are weak. You are not interested in game. The reason this is most frequent is because if the opponents have an opening bid, it's less likely you have game. It is possible, if they've got 12 to 15, they have 0, you could have up to 25, perhaps a couple more. But strictly speaking, the odds have massively decreased when the opponents open the bidding. For you to have 25 between you, it's a lot less likely now. So you're more likely to just have some kind of fit or not, and no interest in game particularly. So the most common thing you will do as a responder to an overcall, well, I suppose, is pass. That's probably fairly common. Or follow level of the fit. What that means is you bid however many spades you have in your hand. In this instance, spades, because your partner's overcalled spades. So the weakest thing you can do as an overcaller is raise your partner's suit directly, i.e. bid their suit. Now this doesn't necessarily mean you have any points. All you're saying is, I have some spades with you. Your partner's bid is based on, if you like, a sort of an aggressive style. They're trying to get involved with not necessarily a good hand, but with a good suit. So raising their suit is following the same kind of pattern. I have some of your suit with you. I don't have a good hand either. I'm just messing up their bidding. Especially with spades, this can really disrupt them. So our partner's promised us 5 cards in spades. So if I just give us a hand, something that's rubbish. Now, because our partner's promised us 5 cards in spades, we know we have a good fit in spades. Good fit based on length rather than strength in that suit. So we've got 9 cards in spades. Now, no, I don't think we have a good hand. I'm not thinking, woohoo! But what I am thinking is, if we've got a good fit in spades, they must have a good fit somewhere, which appears to be hearts. That seems to be logical. Now, the level of the fit states that the number of trumps you have as a team is the number of tricks you can bid. You've heard me say that before, bid to the level of the fit. This is because you are taking on a destructive style of bidding. You're not trying to build a conversation, you're trying to ruin their conversation. So over one spade, they bid 2 hearts, we should bid for however many trumps we think our team holds. So we think our team holds 9 trumps, because they've promised 5. They could have 6, but they've promised us 5. We've got 4, which means we should bid for 9 tricks, i.e. 3 spades. Raising your partner's suit directly promises nothing about points. And I mean, you could have 0. But what it does promise is length of trumps. So in this instance, you're saying, I have 4 cards in spades with you. That is it. Yes, okay, it's good that you have the ace of diamonds and a singleton, but you don't need them. The idea behind this is the weaker you are, the stronger they are, the more you want to interrupt them. Which is completely the opposite of how you might instinctively bid. You might think, oh, my hand's really bad, I don't want to get involved. But the worse your hand is, the better their hand is, the more you need to disrupt them. Because if you let them bid, they will get to their contract routinely, unless you interrupt them. Now it could be, over the 3 spades, North has an awkward decision. They wanted to bid 4 hearts, maybe, in which case they would bid 4 hearts, or maybe they wanted to invite with 3 hearts, and now they don't know whether to go 4 hearts or not. Because your 3 spade bid has robbed them of all of their room, they've got to make a decision right now. Will 3 spades make? No, 3 spades will not make, but that's not the intention. It's a completely different style of bidding. So raising your partner's suit is a weak bid saying, I have this many trumps, and that's all. So if I give us an extra trump, we should now bid 4 spades. Because you've got 10 trumps. You're not going to make 4 spades, but now they're going to walk 4 hearts. They're going to make 4 hearts so easily, because they have at most 1 spade. Because they have 3 spades between them, one of them has a singleton spade, in the best case scenario. It could be that they're 3-0, in which case we've got no tricks in spades in defence. So defensively speaking, your hand is worth a trick. Offensively speaking, your hand, you've got a singleton, you're going to make some heart ruffs. So the bigger the fit, the bigger the bid. It's a weak raise. Whenever you raise your partner's suit directly, you're not promising anything about points. Okay? Right. Now, let's imagine that instead you have a decent hand. You have an invitational hand. You have a hand that actually has a fit, but you think game could well be on. So let's try... They're probably more likely passing now. I mean, they might be 2 hearts still, but let's say they pass. Now we've got a good hand. Our partner's overcalled 1 spade. We're interested in exploring whether we can make game or not. Because game isn't necessarily not on just because they've opened. It just means it's less likely. So we have a spade fit here, but we want to know if our partner's got a good hand for their spade overcall, or if they've got their minimum 6, they've got ace queen to 5 spades and that's it. So we need to know whether they're good or bad for their 1 spade overcall. Notice we can't invite by bidding spades. If we bid 2 spades or 3 spades, that's not invitational because it's weak with that number of trumps, because we just agreed that. So 2 spades and 3 spades are not the correct bids on these hands, because 2 spades will get passed and 3 spades will get passed, regardless of how good their hand is, because they think you're weak, like the hand before. So you need a way of telling them you have a spade fit, but a good hand. What's a good hand? Sort of an opening handish, something like that, where you think between you, if you both have opening hands, you might have a game going hand. So in this instance, rather than bidding spades, which will be a weak raise, you bid hearts, which is their suit. This is a Q bid. A Q bid is a bid of the opponent's suit. It's just a fancy way of saying I'm bidding their suit rather than ours. Now what a Q bid says is I am too good to just bid 2 spades or 3 spades or 4 spades. I have too good a hand. Too good a hand is sort of opening hand upwards, maybe 11, that kind of jazz. 10 and below I think is too weak really to think game is on. So we actually want to investigate whether we might have a genuine game on here. So we want to tell our partner we have a spade fit and a good hand, rather than we have a spade fit and a poor hand. We can't bid 2 spades and we can't bid 3 spades because they're both spade fits with poor hands. So 2 hearts is a way of showing a spade fit and a good hand. What this means is our partner is in a position now to know that we have a spade fit and an opening hand. So if they also have an opening hand, they can then bid whatever game they want to bid, in this case 4 spades. So when you bid the opponent's suit, when you Q bid, that says I have a good hand and support rather than just a weak hand and support. You follow me? What East now does is if their hand is weak, they just rebid their suit, which says, okay, I understand you've got a spade fit, I'm not impressed with my overcall, I don't think game is on. Okay, that's rather logical. Just return to your suit at the lowest level. That says, not bothered, thank you. Any other bid says, I am bothered. So anything else other than returning to your suit says you have a good hand. A good hand would be an opening hand as well. Because if you both have opening hands, you do want to be in game somewhere. So anything, literally any other bid would be an opening hand with something. So your options here are, I suppose, going all the way up. That's about it. You wouldn't do much more than that. All of these bids would say, I have an opening hand too for my overcall, and I think we have a game on somewhere. But what you do is you give them more information. So 2 no trumps would say, I'm balanced with a heart stopper. 3 clubs would say, I've got spades and clubs. 3 diamonds would say, I've got spades and diamonds. So it's purely natural. Nothing, if you like, really fancy going on. The only thing that's a bit weird is 3 hearts, because that's their suit. I don't really know what that would be, probably some kind of slam enquiry, but I can't really imagine ever using that, so you can sort of forget that one. 3 spades would be, I've only got spades, but I've got a good hand, so I didn't want to bid 2 spades, so I jumped to 3 spades. You could arguably just bid 4 spades, if that was the case. The point here is any bid other than 2 of your original suit says, I have a good hand, and I'm telling you more about my hand, whether that's this suit, that suit, no trumps, whatever. If you don't do this kind of fancy stuff, it might well go 1 heart, 1 spade, 2 spades, oh well, they're weak, so pass. And you might miss a game. So you need this bid to say you're strong with spade fit, and you need these bids to say you're also strong so that you end in the correct game. You with me? That is about as complicated as it gets. You'll be perhaps quite glad to know. Those 2 come up far more often than anything else, bidding your partner's suit directly and bidding the opponent's suit to say you wanted to bid your partner's suit but your hand's too good. Those are the most frequent things that happen. You could, of course, have a hand that is rubbish, where you pass, but I think you will instinctively know when pass is the right thing. Now, interestingly, if we go back to weak hand for a second, if you had level of the fit applied, you would know to pass based on the level of fit or lack thereof. So if I just give us some kind of weird hand. So again, obviously our partner could overcall something other than spades, but so let's say they bid 1 spade. 1 heart, 1 spade, pass. Level of the fit, because we're weak, you apply level of the fit. They've got 5 spades, we've got 2 spades, that's 7. We want to bid for 7 tricks, which is 1 spade. Which means pass. And if we remove a spade, we've now got 6 spades, which means we want to bid 0 spades, which means pass is doubly correct. You might be instinctively thinking, well, our partner's going to have a miserable time in 1 spade, can't I save them? The answer really is no. The more you dig, the worse your hole will get. So if you instinctively think, well, if I bid 2 diamonds, that surely will improve the contract, it might do, but if they bid 2 spades, you're actually making the problem worse. So level of the fit really does work the whole way up, from 0 all the way up. If we had 0 spades, your partner's going to have a miserable time in 1 spade, but you're going to have also a miserable time in whatever suit you play in, because you won't have a fit. It's a misfitty hand. Okay? So the bigger the fit, the more you bid. The less the fit, the less you want to bid. Just instinct. Okay? Now, there are times where you can bid your own suit. This isn't particularly frequent, but it's more frequent than bidding no trumps, which I'll get to last. But you can bid your own suit when you can tolerate your partner's suit. So if I change the suit bid for a second. So here we've got an opening hand, 12 points. 1 spade opened by the opponents, 2 clubs overcalled by our teammate, pass from the other opponent. So we have a club fit. We've got 8 cards in clubs, that's safe. But we also have a heart suit. So we could bid 2 spades, which says I've got a good fit for you and a good hand. That wouldn't be a lie. That would say I've got an opening hand and a club fit. That's the truth. But because we've got a major, we don't really want to necessarily agree a minor until we've ruled out that major. So to bid your own suit after your partner's overcall, What you need is a hand that would have overcalled anyway, so in this case 10 plus points and 5 plus hearts, and tolerance for your partner's suit. It should not be, I don't like yours, here's mine, because then they say, I don't like yours, here's mine again. You actually end up in an argument. So whenever you change suit after an overcall, it says, I have this suit, I would have bid this willingly, but I don't mind if you want to play in your suit. I don't mind if you insist upon clubs. So your partner then has the freedom. They can bid 3 hearts if they like hearts. Great. Or they can bid 3 clubs, which says, not too keen on those hearts, I'll return to my safe spot, thank you. You follow me? If this bid says, I've got hearts, I don't like clubs, if they don't like hearts, they're in a right mess. Because there's nowhere for them to go. And what you tend to find is you argue with one another. You shouldn't bid your own suit if you're arguing. You should really only be bidding a suit if you can tolerate partners' insistence upon their suit. Tolerate could be that. You don't necessarily need a guaranteed fit, but if your partner insists upon clubs, you're not thinking it's a disaster if they play in clubs. If it was that would be a disaster if they played in clubs. So here, if this were my hand, partner's bid 2 clubs, I'd shrug my shoulders and pass. It could be right to bid 2 hearts if your partner's got 6 clubs and 3 hearts, but you just don't know. And you're probably going to make the problem worse rather than better. Again, following the thing of the bigger the fit, the more the bid, the less the fit, the less you want to bid. Same kind of theory here. There are occasions where your suit is so damn good that you've got to say it just because it's what you've been dealt. So if I keep those overcalls as what they were, if I change the heart suit to something ridiculous, I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily this good. But if you think it's worthy of repeating, you can bid your own suit, because when you bid 2 hearts now, your partner thinks, oh, well, they don't mind if I go back to clubs, so I'll go back to clubs, let's say. You can then go, actually, I'm insisting upon this suit. So you can break that rule if you think your suit is self-sufficient, a suit that is so good you just have to mention it. I want to stress this doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen particularly often that you have a 6-card, almost self-sufficient suit. It doesn't necessarily have to be that good, but it wants to be damn good because you're on your own potentially. Your partner doesn't necessarily have any hearts at all. But I hope you instinctively feel that this hand is too good to pass over 2 clubs. You want to bid 2 hearts and then you want to insist upon hearts. Now whether your partner likes that or not is kind of by the by. So you can change suit without a fit, but only when your suit is really good, 6 plus cards at least, and really good. I would say King, Queen, Jack is a minimum. Ace, Queen, Jack, Ace, King, Queen, Ace, King, Jack, that kind of territory, where it's a really good suit of its own. If we go back to, kind of a dodgy 5-card suit, I wouldn't bid over 2 clubs now, because it's unlikely to lead you to any great success, because you can't insist upon hearts. Okay? Now the last thing you can do is bid no trumps. Now bidding no trumps isn't particularly common because if you don't have a fit, you shouldn't really be bidding. And if you don't have a fit, that is what would lead you to bidding no trumps, is if you didn't have a fit. So the only time you really bid no trumps is if you think that you potentially have a game on and your partner has overcalled in A minor. If they've overcalled in A minor, you might well think that potentially 3 no trumps is on. So let me give you some kind of hand. So 1 spade, 2 diamonds, pass. Your hand is quite good again, but you don't have a diamond fit necessarily. But because your partner's promises 10 plus points to bid at the 2 level, there may well be 3 no trumps on here, potentially. You only really look for 3 no trumps if your partner has overcalled a minor. If they've overcalled a major, you should really be playing in the major. So in this instance, I think, well, 3 no trumps could well be on. So I would bid 2 no trumps, showing them kind of a balanced 12-ish, looking for 3 no trumps. But it doesn't happen very often at all, because you need the prerequisite of your partner's overcalled a minor and you haven't got a suit to mention of your own. And you've got enough points to think 3 no trumps has got a chance. If we give us an extra card, let's say the King of Clubs, we've now got 15, which means we know 3 no trumps is on. Our partner's promised us 10, we've got 15 is 25, we've got a stopper in their suit, 3 no trumps. But it doesn't happen very often, because if it was a major, if they bid 2 hearts, for example, you would bid 4 hearts because you think game is on. You follow me? You're not bidding 4 hearts on level of the fit, you've just got 15 points opposite 10, so you've got game on. So if you like logic, supersedes everything there. So it's only when your partner overcalls a minor and you think there might be a chance of game. You shouldn't routinely just bid 1 no trump because you don't like partner's suit. So if I give us a different example, take this hand away. If it was 1 club, 1 heart, 1 spade, and we had... You might instinctively feel that 1 no trump is a reasonable bid here because our partner's got the hearts covered, we've got everything else. Alright, diamonds aren't great, but we've got everything else. We've got the 6 to 9 points, so 1 no trump looks sensible-ish, doesn't it? The problem is, 1 no trump as a response to an opening bid is 6 to 9. To an overcall, they might only have 6 points. So it could be that you bid 1 no trump, they double you, your partner puts down ace queen to 6 hearts and goes good luck, and you've got no tricks. So 1 no trump in response to an overcall doesn't really happen. Here, because of the level of the fit, we're weak, so we should follow level of the fit. Our partner's got 5 hearts, we've got 1 is 6, we want to be in 0 hearts, which means we should pass. Bidding no trumps in response to an overcall is a common kind of mistake because you feel instinctively it's sensible, but it's not because you're not responding to an opening bid, you're responding to an overcall, which is different. Okay? So as a recap, if you're weak, bid however many trumps you have. If you're strong, bid their suit with a fit. If you've got a good suit of your own, you can bid it. And don't bid no trumps unless you think it's got a chance of 3 no trumps, opposite a minor overcall. Alright?